Button.
Button.
Benjamin Button. Not on my list.
No, I've never seen it.
Welcome to VCR, Vintage Cinema Rewind. We're bringing old movies to new viewers. I'm Blake.
And I'm Michael.
And we're getting down to the wire of our top 100.
The live wire, you might say.
We passed the TSN turning point last week, and now it feels like, like the next 20 I actually think are really fun.
I'd agree. I mean, I don't know your list, but I'm pretty proud of my next 20.
Yeah, so am I. Like, when we get to the top 20, like 20 through 1, I feel like, those are all the best of the best. Like, there's a lot of prestige movies in there. There's a lot of, like, movies that we've talked about on this podcast before. But there's kind of a weird little niche in 40 through 21.
I think I get what you're saying. Are you saying that, like, this next 20 we're going through, 40 to 21, are almost like a more authentic portrait of yourself?
I don't know. I'm not sure that that's quite what I mean, but there's some movies in there that when I say them, you're going to be like, yes.
Yeah,
Either you were expecting it, or I think this is actually 40 through 21 is maybe where you and I might end up having the most crossover.
I'm looking at my 20 right now, and I'm already, there's a couple crossovers.
Yeah.
There might be 2 specific instances of crossover going forward. Everything else is just bananas.
Oh, interesting.
And I said it last week, and I'll say it again. My 21 is a kind of a controversial pick. Well, let me rephrase.
It's Sallow, the movie about terrible things happening to
no.
kids.
Number 21 is the sex tape I made featuring myself when I was 21, but it's only available on the dark web. No, I mean, maybe controversial isn't the right term. It's more like there's an argument to be made that 21 isn't actually a movie, but I'm calling it a movie.
Well, I guess we'll put it up for debate. If it's not on Letterboxd, I don't count it.
Okay.
Because these are going on Letterboxd as a top 100.
I mean, it's my 21, whether you count it or not, but we'll see.
I don't have a lot of preamble. I actually have a little bit of post-amble to get to at the end of this episode.
A little bit of aftercare.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think what I want to talk about is actually more well-served after we get through this 20.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
That being said, I think we said that it was your turn to start this time.
That's right. A little bit of preamble for my number 40.
Mm-hmm.
This movie came out in 2017, and I remember being in kind of a weird transitional period of my life. Different things were going on. I went and saw this movie with my cousin and his then girlfriend. Not even really wanting to go, but kind of like, when you're in a bad mood, but you made plans, and you're like, yeah, I'll just go. So I went and saw the movie in theaters, and you know what? I didn't fucking like it. But then a couple years later, I went back to it, and I'm like, that's actually really good. It's arguably one of the best comedies of the last 10 years.
Wow.
And that is Thor Ragnarok.
Oh!
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's the movie that kind of turned me on to Taika Waititi.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering when Taika Waititi was actually going to show up on one of our lists.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe Ragnarok has been diminished just because of Love and Thunder seemed to disappoint so many people.
Right.
But to me, I actually look back on Ragnarok and I'm not a huge MCU guy, despite what my list might proclaim, but I would have to say this is probably in my top 3 of anything the MCU has produced.
Yeah, I mean, it's objectively one of the better movies. I think for better or worse, it kind of further set the Marvel Universe off on a trajectory of
a very quippy direction.
Yeah, the style became, and the dialogue kind of became very prototype of this film.
I feel so there was a movie that came out last year that I really liked and you didn't, and that was Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
I almost kind of felt like Deadpool and Wolverine was almost trying to be a parody of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which it arguably succeeded at. But this movie came out, 7 years earlier, and I almost consider this the Blazing Saddles of the MCU, right? It kind of lampoons some of the big moments. There is still a plot and a story and a really powerful message about colonialism at the heart of it,
right.
But it's very silly. It's also the first movie I saw where I looked at Chris Hemsworth and I'm like, how is it fucking fair that this guy is that gorgeous and he's funny?
Nice.
So anyways, yeah, I think I'm rambling a bit about this one, but yeah, Thor Ragnarok is my 40.
My number 40, you know what? It's kind of funny. I feel like your number 40 is a pretty typical film that I would expect in your top 100.
Yes,
And like
you're
that's
right.
not a knock. I think that it's just like, your sensibilities, like your style of comedy, the style of like superhero film, like
This is a Michael movie. Like,
very
hands
much a
down,
Michael
yeah.
movie. And my number 40 is very much a Blake movie in that it's a crime thriller film. It has some big performances from like some mainstay actors over the last 30 years. It's from one of my favorite directors of all time, Martin Scorsese. And it's also a movie that, because of when it came out in 2006, it kind of being in that pivotal range of me being just becoming a teenager at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad really liked this movie as well. And so this movie just was always playing in my teenage years at my house.
Okay.
And that's The Departed.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
This is one of my most watched movies, period.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably seen this movie bordering on 20 times. This movie is 19 years old. I've probably watched this movie almost once a year since it was released. It's one of the most watchable and rewatchable Martin Scorsese movies. It's got some all-star performances from Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, and Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
Mark Wahlberg, maybe his best role ever, period.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
I didn't
just-
even know he was in that movie.
Yeah, he plays kind of like the deputy of the chief of police, and he's kind of like the hard-boiled, like always turned up to 11, angry police officer. It's a really fun
So
performance.
it's Mark Wahlberg.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
okay.
great. It's really, really good. It's a movie. It's a cat and mouse kind of style movie where Leonardo DiCaprio is playing a police officer going undercover in the mob. Matt Damon is a gangster going undercover in the police. They're each trying to figure out who the other one is, and Jack Nicholson being the pivotal godfather role in this,
Right.
having dealings with both of them and not knowing who the rat is in his own group. So
okay, I have seen this movie. Never mind.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorites. It's one of my favorite Scorsese movies. I don't think it's his best, and we still have a couple more to get to, maybe one more to get to. But it's easily my most rewatched of his movies.
Okay. Nice. I don't think I've seen that movie since I was a kid, but I might have to give it another look-see.
Mhm.
My number 39 is a movie that I don't even know how I heard about it, but I watched it a couple years ago, and I think I watched it twice that year because I was so like, what the fuck did I just see? This is by a director that I haven't seen everything he's done, but I've really liked everything he's done. It's The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's that movie. Like, it's a very interesting story about, World War II veteran turned drifter, played by Joaquin Phoenix, a cult leader played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and how the two kind of like intersect throughout each other's lives and become really important to each other. Like, it's almost kind of hard to even give a plot summary of this movie because in some ways it's not really about anything. There's one plot turn towards the end, and if you've seen this movie, you probably know what I'm talking about, where, like, as a writer, you always have to figure out how a character gets from point A to point B. And Joaquin Phoenix I'm like, what are you doing here? How did you even get here, right? And it's funny how, like, we don't even, as a viewer, get to see the first encounter between these two characters because Freddie was so drunk when they met, and there's a lot of, like, ambiguities and, like, weird dynamics. And, I mean, I'm really starting to like Paul Thomas Anderson as like the darker of the two Andersons. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even really describe his style, but there's something extremely minimalist and compelling about it.
I think that Paul Thomas Anderson is like borderline an auteur, and it's hard to describe just why he is.
Yeah.
As well. Like, I kind of agree with you. There's just something in the way that he can tell a story that's just a little bit different from everybody else.
It's very specific, and it doesn't feel deliberate either. You feel like there's a very strong hand steering the ship, It's just like, maybe this doesn't make logical sense, but it somehow makes emotional sense, and that's okay.
Right.
No, I really like this movie. It's also just elevated by like an incredible performance by Phoenix and Hoffman. Nothing but good things to say about it.
Cool. That's our first PTA movie. My number 39, I believe, is our first Denis Villeneuve movie on our top 100. This is a movie that came out very recently. It's the last movie that he made, and that is Dune Part 2.
Oh, okay. I was wondering when this was going to show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dune Part 2 is, a sci-fi film that if you've read the book, maybe you have a couple notes about this movie, but as a film, as a standalone film, putting aside the novel and the complete unique style of writing that book has, this is just kind of a work of art, a work of sci-fi art. Like, my favorite sci-fi movies are the movies that have a lot to say about humanity and our place in the universe and religion and politics and the human condition. And this movie has all of that, and it, I think, pretty effectively navigates through Frank Herbert's thoughts and ideas that he had back in the 50s, or I think when he was writing this. And yet it still feels like so contemporary. It still fits the modern climate that we find ourselves in. So, I mean, in a way, the stuff that this movie is dealing with is timeless, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah.
Actually, my friend Andrew, who we went Masters with, he very innocently described it as Star Wars for adults, and I'm kind of like, I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, it's Star Wars for adults.
Well, and you and I kind of talked about, we were talking about how much the Lord of the Rings series had an impact on us, and I think you asked, like, what do you think is going to be the Lord of the Rings franchise for Gen Z, the generation below us? And I was like, well, it's going to be Dune. Like,
I guess
it's Dune
like,
Part 1, it's Dune Part 2, and then Dune Messiah coming in a couple years.
I mean, what else could it possibly be? Like, nothing else really stands the test of time. I'll just say that I really didn't like Dune Part 1. I thought it was so aggressively boring.
Right.
So I finally saw this movie, though, actually with my friend Andrew back in January, and I was like, you know what? That was pretty fucking good.
It just kind of improves everything about the first film. In retrospect, I think actually makes the first movie way more hollow, way more stiff, and less exciting. But again, I think Dune Part 2 is one of the best movies ever made.
I liked it quite a bit, but I remember next to nothing about it.
Fair
but
enough.
I think it just didn't personally resonate with me as much. But I was quite surprised. Like, I was like, wow, I'm not bored.
Yeah.
Like, I was prepared to be bored, and I'm not. So, anyways, my number 38 is actually arguably one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, of course, it's my top 100 favorite movies. Yeah, I just heard what I said, and I was like, oh, fuck, podcasting. But I'm noticing as we go through this list that I like children's movies that aren't really for children. Mm-hmm. And I also like movies where I look at them and I'm like, how the fuck did this even get made?
Right.
And this is kind of the perfect fusion of the two, and that is Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Ah,
yeah.
I kind of forgot about this movie.
Yeah,
however, if I had been thinking of it, I totally would have put it somewhere in the top half of your top 100.
Yeah, this movie's, I rewatched it like maybe a year ago, and it's beautiful. It hits all the right notes. It's arguably some of, the Disney Renaissance's best work. It's also just perplexing that it even exists because, like, I don't know what you know about the original Victor Hugo novel, but, like, it's not exactly prime material for a Disney adaptation. And, like, it arguably flounders in certain areas as you try to, like, wait, what? Like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very flawed but, like, breathtakingly beautiful movie.
Interesting.
There's the famous scene where Quasimodo, like, breaks out of his chains and, like, saves Esmeralda from the pyre and proclaims sanctuary, and I'm just like, absolute fucking cinema. Then there's also, like, these talking gargoyles, which slightly overstay their welcome, but what are you gonna do, right?
Right.
So, fuck, I almost should have put this movie higher on my list, but, like, it's great.
Cool.
That's it. That's it's great. That's my pin in it.
Fair enough. My number 38 is a movie that we've done on the podcast this year. It's the only movie from here on out that I've only watched once, period.
Okay.
There's one other movie that I've only had seen parts of at a point in time, and first full watch was earlier this year.
Okay.
This is a movie that feels very in line with my sensibilities. It's a crime film. It's a pretty epic scope, a foreign movie, but it has some really comedic points to it. It has a very dynamic energy to it, and that's The City of God.
Oh, shit. I remember City of God.
Yes.
I was there.
You were there. The
Yeah.
Brazilian crime thriller that takes place over 3 decades centers around this favela in Brazil. I think that this is probably up there for a lot of people who like crime movies who have kind of expanded to the international market. You know, this is one of those movies that I kind of feel the influence of this. Like, we talked about this in the podcast episode, but I think that something like Breaking Bad actually owes a lot to a movie like this. I think just with how dynamic and exciting this movie kind of rolls, it kind of has that a little bit of shared DNA with Breaking Bad.
I could see a little bit of that. I mean, I definitely didn't like this movie as much as you did, but like, I'm kind of overwhelmed that it even got made in the first place and that it looks as good as it does.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Especially when you consider like the kind of conditions they were in when they shot it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this movie is just over 2 hours long, and it feels like a 3-hour epic, minus the feeling of the runtime of a 3-hour movie. Like, it just feels so big and grand in its scope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that I'm really, really looking forward to a rewatch, and I haven't quite found that time yet to get back to it. But
yeah, no, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I also like kind of like the breezy tone that it has.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, my number 38, City of God.
Well, we are about to leave the City of God, and I didn't realize I had 2 Taika Waititi movies smooshed so close together in my list, but here we are. My number 37 is Jojo Rabbit.
Ah, I knew it was going to be on your list.
Yeah. This is one of those pleasant surprises where, like, I really didn't know what to expect from this movie. And then when it was over, I'm like, fuck, that was good.
Yes.
That was really good. Arguably a career best performance from Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I mean, that's tough. Like, he's in lots of good to okay movies and has fantastic performances in them, so
yeah, I don't know.
I'll fight you on that one, but
okay, well, anyways.
He's great in it.
I also want to point out, and I think we talked about this in our like best of 2022 ranking, like I like things that are smart and also stupid. I also like things that are funny but also sad.
Yep.
This movie really kind of threads that line where like I'm laughing at German shepherds, literal German shepherds fighting Nazis in 1 minute. And then I'm crying over like a dramatic death scene the next minute.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's the sign of like a truly masterful like scene crafting.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I mean, what is there to say about this movie? Again, we were all disappointed by Love and Thunder. I know, but I'm still gonna watch everything Taika Waititi makes.
Yeah.
Just purely on this movie alone.
Yeah, that's absolutely reasonable. My number 37 is actually, funny enough, a movie by a director that I just talked about a couple movies ago.
Uh-oh.
It's my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie, and that is Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Jason and I actually saw this one together.
No, bitch, you saw it with me.
What?
It's
I did?
true. You saw Blade Runner 2049 with me.
Okay, well,
I remember
you didn't like it as much as I did.
Yeah, I actually really didn't like it.
But Jason liked it as much as I did. Him and I spent years talking about this movie. This movie is one of the movies that I would say influenced the making of this podcast, because this movie is kind of, again, a weighty sci-fi with lots of themes and ideas. It's a modern update on the original Blade Runner movie while being kind of stoic and picturesque. I think that it does move with a little bit better pace. I think it's a little bit more approachable in 2025. And yeah, I mean, I think that this movie is a modern day masterpiece. I think this is one of the best movies of the 2020s so far. I didn't put Blade Runner on my list. Like, I actually consider this to be a better movie to me. However, I will say that when I was in my late teens to early 20s, I probably watched Blade Runner half a dozen times.
Really?
Yeah, like
okay.
I really liked it. Like this, again, the Blade Runner franchise is right up my alley in the style of sci-fi that I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got this movie, I kind of pivoted my rewatching of Blade Runner to Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, again, it's just a modern day upgrade in pretty much every way to the original. I'm interested to see if we ever get a sequel to this, or if we ever get like a full Alien Blade Runner crossover.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. We saw this in theaters in like 2017 or whenever the fuck it came out. And I remember we went back home to your girlfriend, now wife, and you were like raving about how great it was. And I was just standing there like, I didn't like it. Like, I just really bounced hard off this movie.
Part of it is that it's a vibe movie, right?
I guess so, yeah.
And you didn't pass the vibe check.
I often don't, but, you know, I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, one of my favorites of all time. Number 37, Blade Runner 2049.
Tight. My number 36, this is a bit of crossover between my list and your list.
Ooh.
And that is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Hey! There it is.
I genuinely think this movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's flawless. I really have no gripes with this movie whatsoever.
Neither
do I. I remember, like, coming out of the theater and just being like, okay, yeah, that's probably going to win every award next year.
Yep.
And, like, it fucking deserves to,
yeah,
too.
It was one of the best feel-good movies of that year. It having that whimsical tone, but being so accessible to, like, my parents watched that movie and liked it.
I think my mom saw that movie with me because I was single at the time and had no one else to go see it with, and she walked out of the theater like, huh, like, okay,
yeah. Like, even though it really stretches and pushes people who maybe wouldn't like a whimsical type of movie, it somehow is able to pull them in.
Yeah. You know, Jason made a great point about how it felt like kind of a turning point where it was like maybe the first real blockbuster in our post-COVID world.
Yep.
And I'm kind of agree with that. Like, it does feel like it was ushering in some kind of a new wave of weirder, more artsy movies.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, hands off, hands down, loved it.
My number 36 is a classic movie. I believe it is my highest black and white movie on my list.
Okay.
It's a movie that I actually saw in high school for the first time. My law teacher showed it to us, and I was kind of floored even back then as a teenager who, you know, didn't really approach black and white movies at all, thought, you know, old movies, who cares about a movie made prior to 1970, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even then, like I said, there was something about this movie that just held up in my mind that it was just one of the greats. I've rewatched it actually twice in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And both times I went, wow, that is just genuinely one of the best movies ever made.
Is it 12 Angry Men?
It is 12 Angry Men.
Nice.
Sidney Lumet's first feature film from 1957. It's just about a bunch of guys arguing for an hour and a half in a room.
Just guys being dudes.
Just guys being dudes. It's a movie that has some really weighty themes to it, and it's able to navigate those, and they still hold up in 2025. I think, you know, like maybe all of the 11 jurors turning away from the last juror when he goes on a racist rant maybe feels a little quaint in 2025, but I actually found it a very powerful scene even then.
I mean, have you been on Facebook lately? You don't have to stretch too far to find a racist rant.
Yeah.
And someone willing to share it.
Yeah. So I think that this is one of those classic movies that I saw it when I was maybe 16 years old, and it blew my mind at 16, and it continues to just amaze me that the script is so sharp that it moves at such a strong pace for being a 70-year-old movie nearly. I genuinely would recommend this to, I think, everybody because it just holds up that well.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that 12 Angry Men is like one of the best constructed plays of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, no, I actually, in my English class, they only showed us the remake with Tony Soprano.
Oh!
Yeah. And I remember being like, what is this? Even as a kid, I was like, where the fuck is Henry Fonda?
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, I actually, the remake wasn't bad, if I remember correctly.
It just feels like the most unnecessary remake of all time.
Well,
you know?
And the whole time, I just kept looking at Tony Soprano, and I'm like, why is Tony Soprano here?
Nice.
So, my number 35 is actually a movie that I don't know that I liked that much as a kid, but I came back to it as an adult, and I was like, all right, that was pretty fucking good. I believe this is the movie that actually caused the Oscars to start to include a Best Animated Feature category.
Oh, interesting.
And that is Beauty and the Beast.
I asked about that earlier. I thought that might pop up on your list.
Right, and I said it wasn't, but I had actually...
Because you're a filthy liar.
Because I forgot it was already on the list. So I'm glad I included it and remembered or at least wrote it down. So yeah, it's Beauty and the Beast. It's arguably the best movie to come out of the Disney Renaissance in the 90s, which I think, people of our age very clearly like sort of defined our childhoods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
We were all up in that shit. So no, it's also like a genuinely great love story too. Like, it's some of the best voice acting and performances I've ever seen. I watched it with a girlfriend a few years ago, and I went into work the next day, and I was talking to my friend in the office, and I was complaining. I'm like, yeah, it was pretty better than I remembered, but it was like 5 minutes too long. She's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, it just felt like 5 minutes too long. And then she's like, was there a song where all the like talking furniture is singing about how they're going to be human again? I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah, Michael, you watched the extended edition. And I was like, I felt kind of dumb that I hadn't realized I was watching the extended edition, but I was also kind of proud of myself that my instincts were like, this is 5 minutes too long.
Right.
Like, yeah. So
that's so funny.
that is, so shout out to my friend, who I guess I won't name. Not that, I'm going to put a hit out on her or anything, but if the dressers start singing about how much they want to be human again, maybe just fast forward through it. I don't know.
That's awesome. I honestly haven't approached Beauty and the Beast since I was probably about 5 years old, so I really don't have much to say one way or the other.
That's Blake. No strong feelings one way or the other.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I do have strong feelings about my number 35.
Let's do it.
It's a Steven Spielberg movie. It's the harbinger of the modern day summer blockbuster, and that is Jaws.
Hey.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to rewatch Jaws before we started this list, but like we could maybe slot that in like number 101 for me.
Nice. Yeah, Jason and I actually had never seen it as kids. And so him and I did it together for one of our early podcast episodes. And it just kind of floored me. Like, I got it instantly, like why this is such a masterpiece, why it's such a classic, right? Like, not only is it the score of the film, it's the tension that this movie builds, it's the comedic moments of the movie. There's one extremely powerful jump scare that you do not see coming, and it just kind of has one of the best like modern three guys on a boat kind of like style of movie where these three dudes are out on a mission kind of thing.
Let's kill that fucking shark, boys.
Bonding and also dying for this shark. And yeah, it's a movie that could have gone very wrong, and yet Steven Spielberg, in all of his wisdom at like 26 or something, was able to just like pull together the disaster on set of what was happening with the shark and everything, and able to just make this into a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's almost like, it almost makes me believe in the presence of a benevolent God, that the shark wasn't working, and Steven Spielberg was like, I guess we just don't show the shark.
We don't need the shark that much.
Yeah, we don't need the shark that badly in this fucking shark movie. So, like, no, it's funny. Like, I haven't seen this movie in like 20 years, but like everything you're saying, it's vivid in my mind. I'm like, yeah. I know the jump scare you're talking about. I know this, I know that, I know the other thing.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of scared of the water because of this movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's probably why I was not allowed to watch it as a kid.
Well,
and look how I turned out.
Well, my parents were comfortable traumatizing me, and look how I turned out. Yeah, it's great. My number 34 is a certain movie that came out in 2012 that, I'm just jumping right into it. It's The Avengers.
Oh, the original.
The OG from 2012. And like, you know what? Like, sometimes I get defensive when I put Marvel?
Sometimes I get defensive when I'm playing with my marbles.
When I put my marbles in my mouth. Sometimes I get a little needlessly defensive when I put Marvel movies on my list, just because I feel like they've gotten a fair bit of flack in the last couple of years. But like, I was 19 when this movie came out, and like, the kids today don't remember what a big deal it was when the Avengers finally came together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, Marvel had, been around for like 5 years at this point, but it hadn't quite clicked as a full cinematic universe until this movie happened.
Yep.
When you had Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and the others all on screen together. Like, I remember being in film school before this movie came out, and some of my friends and the professor were kind of like, I don't know, it looks kind of dumb, right? And then I remember seeing this movie in theaters, and like, the auditorium was packed. Me and my friends had to sit like right at the front row and like crane our heads all the way back. But it was like a sporting event.
Yes.
Like I saw an interview with Peter Jackson where he talked about seeing Star Wars in theaters for the first time and how people were like almost standing in the aisles during the Death Star run and going like, go, go, go. This was kind of my Star Wars cinematic movie viewing experience.
Right.
When the Hulk does his famous "That's my secret, I'm always angry" and punches the flying thing, like people were literally applauding and like cheering in the auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
It's an experience I'm so grateful that I had. This movie will always hold a special place in my heart.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great movie. Not making my top 100, but honestly, that's just more because I have a chip on my shoulder about the Marvel Universe. But
That's okay.
I objectively think that it's a very good movie, and it is inarguably one of the most important movies of the 21st century.
Yeah, right.
And my number 34 is one of my favorite movies from one of my favorite directors. I don't know that we've... Oh, you know what? We have done a David Fincher movie at this point. You did Zodiac.
I did Zodiac.
But I think this is my first entry for David Fincher. I think this is a movie that is a stepping stone film for a lot of people on their film watching journey. I think this is one of those movies that is talked about borderline in whispers until the final scene is yelled at you, "What's in the box?" And that is Seven.
Nice.
Yes.
Good choice.
I rewatched Seven within the last 2 months because it was a movie that was on my list. It was actually quite a bit lower on my list when I first drafted this up, but it had been because it's been so long since I had watched it. When I first saw this movie, I was, again, probably around 18, 19, and I probably watched it like 5 times within the first like 2-3 years that I had seen this movie. This movie just has like an energy to it. There's something dark about this movie and perverse. It feels, especially when you're like in that like 18 through 20 range, it feels very provocative, and you don't quite understand why, I think, at that age. And yet when you watch it, when you approach it with a little bit more mileage, the themes of this movie really start to pop, right? You know, this really is a movie about Morgan Freeman's character. You know, a man who has seen everything, has done everything, who's at the end of his career, and is kind of just has to deal with this one last case. And kind of just like humanity's sick churn. It's just one of those all-time banger films. Like, I kind of had this chip on my shoulder a little bit about, and that's why it was a little bit lower on my list.
You got a lot of chips on your shoulder today.
Yeah, there's at least 2 chips on my shoulder at this point.
Okay.
I'd always remembered when the serial killer showed up, or in my memory, when the serial killer showed up, I found that that's where the movie sort of slowed down for me. But on this rewatch, I realized the reason why it slows down is because when the serial killer shows up, it's basically the end of the movie.
It's clearly like we've clearly entered the third act.
Yes,
yeah.
And the third act moves very quickly into one of the all-time best, darkest movie endings. Period. Like I said, What's in the Box, one of also the most quotable movie endings ever. And yeah, David Fincher is a director that I promise we'll be talking about at least one more time on my top 100 list.
Okay, tight. Good choice. Well, just to lighten the mood a little bit, my number 33 is Rushmore.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, I was going to do a preamble, but then I decided to just jump right into it. So, yeah, you've really clicked me on to Wes Anderson, and I mean, from the ones I've seen, I think this is clearly his best movie.
Wow.
You know, it's about a weird little gifted kid who gets kicked out of his school, and, you know, the plot just sort of, I think to say this movie has a very kind of lighthearted, meandering tone is a correct way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's also got one of my favorite lines in all of movies where Max, Jason Schwartzman, the kid, he's talking to Rosemary, the teacher he's madly in love with, and she's kind of like, "You pulled it off," and he's like, "Yeah, and nobody got hurt." She's like, "Except you." And he went, I didn't get hurt that bad. It's almost kind of even hard to describe this movie because it's just about this kid who he's clearly very intelligent and gifted, but like does not excel academically.
Or doesn't really care.
Yeah, I guess.
I think is
right?
more the right word. Like, you know, he's kind of a kid after my own heart. Like, he has a passion for passions, and he realizes that, like, you know, he won't be in school forever, so why not just enjoy what he's doing right now kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think if I saw this movie at an earlier age, I would have felt really inspired by his character. I also think that Bill Murray is the unsung hero of this movie, like in the sense that if he doesn't have the best performance, he arguably has the second best performance in the movie. He is able to have this kind of comedic tone to his character even when he's serious, but that's almost like doing him a disservice. I think that he's actually a really good dramatic actor.
Yeah, he's clearly playing like, you know, a down on his luck dad who's kind of having a midlife crisis.
Yep.
And him and Max kind of developed this like weird intergenerational friendship. You showed me this movie not even that long ago, but I was really enraptured by it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My number 33. I think this movie is one of the most important movies on my movie list because it mixes my two favorite genres, and that is sci-fi and horror.
Okay.
Maybe I've kind of downplayed Ridley Scott on my list, Gladiator being, you know, in the bottom part of my list.
The 90s. Yeah. What the fuck, Blake?
And then Blade Runner getting an honorable mention next to Blade Runner 2049. But I think this is objectively Ridley Scott's best movie, and that's the original Alien.
Oh, I thought for sure you were going to say The Martian.
No. Very, very fun, very rewatchable movie that I very much adore. Didn't quite make my top 100 list.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did Alien last year on the podcast, ahead of Alien Romulus.
Yeah, for what's her name's month?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver month. That's right.
Yeah. Every time I watch this movie, I kind of fall in love with it all over again. Like the tone of the film, the way that it's shot, it's kind of got this like dark vibe to it. It's futuristic, but also retro. And as a quick shout out, like Alien Earth is right now streaming. And I think that while that show could have been stripped down and made into a 2.5-hour movie rather than an 8-hour series, the most positive aspect of that movie or of that miniseries is that it captures the tone, the feel, retro futuristic ideas of the first Alien movie better than any other movie in the franchise.
You know what? I've heard a lot of mixed things about this show, but you might have just sold me on it.
Yeah.
Just knowing it's a real kind of back to basics approach.
Yes.
And like, you know, not a Romulus style back to basics approach, but
yeah, it definitely has its nods, and I think that there's some maybe deeper cut references. Like Alien Romulus is definitely a very fan service movie, right? But Alien Earth, it feels like the most fan service you get is just in the straight up tone and the filming style of the movie. It's a haunted house movie
in space.
And
yeah, you know what? You could improve almost any movie by setting it in space. What about a rom-com in space?
Passengers. Ooh.
Well, actually.
But yeah, no, we've talked about this. We have a whole podcast episode on it, so I'm not going to go into more detail about why I love Alien because you can go back and listen to that episode. But yeah, number 33. Alien.
What about Whodunit in space?
Yeah.
So I guess we have another bit of overlap here for my number 32 spot. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that I've actually only seen once, but it left such an impact on me that I kind of would have felt as though, you know, my central tenet for making this list was to just be honest.
Yep.
So I felt like not including it pretty high up would have been dishonest of me.
Is that Toy Story 3?
I already did Toy Story 3.
Oh, you were that close to me. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's Good Will Hunting.
No way!
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that to show up on your list.
You know, like, I remember at the time, certain critics were kind of like, it's a little schmaltzy and predictable. And I'm like, fuck you. Like,
it kind of has, like, it's almost like the Titanic.
The Titanic effect, right?
Yeah.
Where you become so Titanic, if you will, that, like, people just kind of... It's almost like the Twilight effect, where it becomes so big, you're like, actually...
It circles back around, and people get to the actualies after you've experienced the joys of it.
You know what? Maybe that's when you know you've really made it, is that you have an immediate flood of positive feedback, followed by a slight backlash. Then you're like, yes, I fucking did it.
Yeah.
I'm a cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this movie's great. It's even greater when you learn that, like, you know, it was one of the preeminent Hollywood success stories, like... Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote it together and got it published. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is true or not, but they claim that they included like a really random, really graphic sex scene somewhere in the script just to see if like the producers would bring it up.
Yeah.
And if the producers were like, Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that scene. Can we like omit it?
Right.
That was their way of being like, oh, like they actually read it and care about this project, right?
Right.
This is unfortunately produced by Harvey Weinstein, but you can't win them all. So I don't know why I had to include that, but no,
There it is.
There it is. So I love this movie a lot.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
How do you like them fucking apples?
I'm seriously surprised. I was not expecting it to show up on your list. But yeah, no, great choice. It is.
I would go as far to say this isn't really a Michael movie.
Yeah.
But like this is kind of the ultimate like seal of approval though I can give it. If it's not something I would ordinarily enjoy, but I was like, wow, that was really fucking good.
Yeah, it's great.
Also, apparently William Goldman, one of my favorite screenwriters and authors of all time, read an early draft of this script, which was more of like kind of like a dark thriller. And he's apparently the one who went back to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and said, why don't you make this movie more about like the relationship with his therapist?
But I like the sex scene.
But I like the sex scene. It's kind of funny. This script was so good that a lot of people for years thought that William Goldman had ghostwritten it. And he eventually came out and he's like, no, I can't do his voice. But he was basically just like, no, like those two cute kids from the East Side or wherever, they wrote it themselves. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's a great movie and a great story too.
I do love the idea of William Goldman being like, I love this sex scene though.
And he winked at them.
And they were like, okay, we're not talking to old man Goldman anymore, but...
My number 32 is not a crossover in film, but a crossover in director that we've talked about on this podcast. On this episode of this podcast. Taika Waititi, his 2016 feature film debut, Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh, you know what's funny? Blake and I watched Hunt for the Wilder People and Jojo Rabbit on New Year's Eve 2021.
Yeah.
It was like a double feature.
Yeah, and you like Jojo Rabbit a little bit more than I did. Not that I didn't like Jojo Rabbit. I like it a lot. I have some faults with it. But I just find Hunt for the Wilder People is just one of my most quotable movies. If I get the Ricky Baker song stuck in my head one more time.
Oh my God. I was actually, when you were talking, was like, oh, what's that fucking song? And like,
Ricky Baker.
I was so
Ricky
close
Baker,
to having finally purged that from my memory, but here it is again.
It's so funny. It's hard to believe that Taika Waititi could write a movie this funny, and that's not a knock to him because he's a very funny writer. It's just, like I said, this movie has like a joke a minute, and every single one of them hits for me.
It all pops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sam Neill is fantastic in this movie as this grizzled older man. It's a story about Ricky Baker and Sam Neill on the run from child services.
Which we can all relate to.
Through the wilds of New Zealand, and these two characters starting as adversaries and becoming the best friends of all time. I just absolutely love this movie. I actually saw it for the first time in 2020, and it's probably my most watched movie of the 2020s.
Oh, he molested me.
Caucasian, but you're white.
I think one of my favorite exchanges that whole movie is, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, so you can cut this if you want. Like at the end when Ricky Baker and Sam Neill reconnect, and Sam Neill's just kind of like, all right, come on, kid, let's go. And he just stands up and he looks at him. He's like, and don't shoot me this time.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that this is one of the all-time classic movies that not everybody has seen. And I think that's a little unfortunate that, you know, because it's a New Zealand movie, because it maybe had a smaller release at that time, I think that this one might be slightly underrated or underwatched. And unlike the child molester crime in this movie, there's a true crime, and that is that you haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People. Not you, the people out there.
Okay.
Before you at me, Michael.
I was about to leap across this table and bring the microphone down on the crown of your skull.
Yeah.
So I got to confess something before I go to number 31. I think that Quentin Tarantino is a very talented director.
Yes.
But I think he's ever so slightly overrated.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, partly it's, and you know what? Don't at me, Blake. I just find I just find him personally a little insufferable.
Yeah, Jess kind of feels the same way.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't fault people for that because he does like to talk.
Well, it's that, and like, whatever. Like, I'm never gonna be as successful as Quentin Tarantino, but like, he had a quote recently where he said that, "Oh, me and David Fincher are the two best directors working in Hollywood right now," and I was a little like, Quentin, like, you might not even be wrong, but don't say that. Like, but I don't know. Maybe you need to believe you're the best director in the world to survive in Hollywood. All that being said, I think Django Unchained is a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
No, I think this was my favorite movie of 2012. I guess there was a little bit of controversy with when it came out in a certain school shooting, but like, this is to me the pinnacle of Quentin Tarantino. This is him at the height of his powers for me. I think that maybe The Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was certainly not as high on either of them as most people were, but to me, this is him operating at like full Tarantino.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, okay, just more movies like this. Just do this again, but bigger,
Well, and we've already talked about Inglourious Bastards on my list, but this is another, all-star, all-time Christoph Waltz performance too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the actual maybe unsung aspects of Tarantino's movies is whoever his casting director is nails it like 100% of the time. He does not have a poorly cast role in really any of his movies.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think this is DiCaprio's best performance.
I was wondering where it was going to show up, and that makes a lot of sense in hindsight. Yeah, no, this is one of his best movies. I completely agree with you. The only reason that I actually have the other movies that I have on my list higher than this one, because this one is like in the long list for sure. For me, the only thing that I think slightly detracts from this movie is the gore in this movie is maybe a little overdone.
That's a fair point. To me, it kind of adds to like the revenge fantasy at the core of the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, fuck these racists.
Right.
Let's get them.
Yeah.
So, no, for me, I have nothing but good things to say about this movie.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Django Unchained.
If I ever am stuck on a flight with Quentin Tarantino, I'll just be like, I like Django. And then he probably won't stop talking for 5 hours. But
yeah, I could listen to that guy talk, but
I could listen to him talk for 5 hours about Django Unchained. Fair enough.
My number 31 is a movie that we did for a draft episode, and I've talked about it a couple times since. It's another Sidney Lumet film, and that is Network.
Okay, tight. Good choice.
Yeah, this is a movie that you somewhat infamously hated after I brought it up on...
I didn't hate it. It just didn't click with me.
Yeah. I've watched this movie a couple times since the draft episode, and it just rocks.
Every time you watch it, is it like me and Cube where I'm just like, fuck Michael. I didn't like this movie.
I hate watch it because of you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
No, I mean, this is one of those movies that I think is underwatched by anybody under the age of 40, in part because it came out almost 50 years ago now. It's a movie that feels like shockingly relevant in our current environment. Network is just one of those like wildly predictive films that watching it in 2025, it blows your mind at like the fact that people were thinking about what the news cycle, the 24-hour news cycle, like what the transition from
Walter Cronkite to like Trump, essentially.
Yeah. And, like the news becoming more of an entertainment piece than a fact-driven, informational part of daily life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie is wildly funny. It has a whole lot of heart. Like, there's a scene where two characters are in the throes of a divorce, and it has one of the most impassioned performances of all time. Like, it actually won an Oscar for like the 8 minutes that this character appeared in this movie.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's a very weighty film with a lot of ideas that for the most part land even in 2025.
Yeah, it holds up pretty well. Like, it's not super problematic either.
Yeah.
In this day and age.
Which is impressive for a movie in the 70s because your mileage may vary with some of those movies.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, number 31 Network.
Tight. So, Blake, you know how I just upset a bunch of people by saying that I think Quentin Tarantino is overrated?
Yep.
I'm going for the high score today. I also think Christopher Nolan is slightly overrated. Yeah.
And it's so funny because you were talking about how good movies come around and people have the but ands. I think Chris Nolan is the but and of the last 15 years.
I guess. You know what it is? Here's my problem with Christopher Nolan. It's that I find there's always a lot of spectacle and big ideas, but the human element is often lacking.
Right.
His characters often feel sterile.
Mm-hmm.
However, I find that none of these faults are present in the truly excellent but often overlooked Batman Begins.
Yes, which
Yes.
I as well slightly overlook.
Okay. It's, you know what? I rewatched it a few months ago, and honestly, I was blown away. Like, you know, I feel like obviously The Dark Knight kind of takes home all the accolades from that
Yep.
trilogy, perhaps for good reason, but like watching this movie, I'm like, oh my God, there's like wit and character and like a really tightly structured screenplay.
Mhm.
I often find a lot of Christopher Nolan movies quite humorless. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yep.
So it's funny. There's the tumbler chase scene in this movie where the police are going after Batman. There's a scene where the tank-shaped Batmobile crushes through like a security booth,
Mhm.
and the police are chasing after him. And it's this wide shot where you see the Batmobile smoking off in the distance, all the police going off. A security guard holding like a canteen of coffee, presumably, walks out and like looks around. And then very clearly, like, looks into his canteen, like, what am I drinking? And it's funny because, like, they don't even cut to, like, a reaction shot. It's just this wide shot where you see this security guard being like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, that's genuinely pretty funny. Like, I would never have believed Christopher Nolan shot that. But honestly, I think this is probably my favorite of the trilogy.
Wow.
You and I rewatched The Dark Knight recently, too. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Batman Begins hits more of the right notes for me.
Is this a controversial pick? Because you're wrong.
Well, I don't know that I am, but if I'm wrong, I'm comfortable being wrong. So this is my one Christopher Nolan on this list, and yeah, no, I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, I can't believe that you don't even have The Dark Knight on your list.
Yeah.
Again, I think you're wrong, but that's neither here nor there. My number
See?
30 is a movie that we have watched together. It's a movie from a director that you and I have both come to love the last year, and it's the movie that he finally, as a director, clicked for me, and that's Wes Anderson and the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, shit. That
Yeah.
was my number 81 or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to talk about this too much because we have talked about it a couple times now on this podcast, but finally I understood, like, what Wes wants out of a movie, like, that all of his films are about telling stories. A lot of his films have a family element to them. I think Gene Hackman is absolutely wonderful in this
R.I.P.,
film.
yeah.
Yeah, somewhat timely that we're talking about this again, but it just has so many great performances in this movie. It has, some of the all-time actors of the late 20th and early 21st century.
Gwyneth Paltrow, Ben Stiller,
Yep,
Owen Wilson,
Bill Murray,
Luke Wilson.
Yeah, no, and Alec Baldwin doing the narration for the film. It's just one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. Yeah, and I feel like with this and Rushmore, Wes Anderson basically has just had a blank check to do whatever he wants for the last 20 years.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very happy with the output. Like, something like Asteroid City doesn't quite make my top 100, but it's, again, one of those honorable mention films that just doesn't quite squeak in there, and yet I really, really love most of Wes Anderson's movies.
Yeah, this was a real pleasant surprise for me, too. I'm glad we discovered the Wesses.
Yeah, I'm glad it finally clicked for one of us, and then we kind of finally gave each other the out to get into his stuff.
Yeah, it's like we gave each other permission to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number 29 is actually a movie from the 60s.
Oh.
It's a classic that I hadn't seen until relatively recently, and that is a certain drama by Mike Nichols called The Graduate.
Oh, you've been telling me to watch this one for a long time.
I sure have, and you haven't.
I have not yet.
So
I almost clicked it in the last 2 weeks, and I thought, you know what? I feel like I would do myself a disservice by trying to jumble this into my top 100 at this point. We'll watch it. We'll reflect on it later.
You know, certain movies have a reputation that precedes them. So what I knew about this movie, I'm like, okay, it's Dustin Hoffman, and he's like, I don't know, he's fucking this older woman named Mrs. Robinson, right?
Right.
You know, the famous through the leg shot, like, Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. So, anyways, though, I wasn't expecting this movie to be as uproariously funny as it was. Like, this was kind of like early 2022 when we were still kind of technically in lockdown. I was visiting my mom, and my uncle had to come quarantine with us for some fucking reason. Anyways, like, the three of us were laughing our fucking asses off, and it holds up really, really well.
Yeah, you said that. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie at some point in time.
Yeah, and it's also like, you know, it has one of the great lines, I think, in all of cinema when Mrs. Robinson is kind of trying to seduce, you know, a young Dustin Hoffman. She's like, don't you think I'm pretty? And he's like, well, yeah, I think you're the most attractive of all my parents' friends. So, and it also kind of like, it's kind of a rom-com, but it sort of veers off into this slightly weird existentialist direction towards the end. It ends on a like hauntingly dour note for how funny it was.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I love this movie a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to watch it. My number 29 is also a movie from the 60s, funny enough. It's not The Graduate because I have not seen it, but it is one of the most influential movies of all time, one of the most influential sci-fi films all the time, and it's a movie from one of my favorite directors of all time. That's Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, interesting choice.
Yes, I rewatched this last year with Jess, and Jess was like, what is this? And she just bounced so hard off of this movie, and I was like, you're just not vibing with the vibe of this film, because this is one of the ultimate sci-fi vibe movies. I'm not sure I could explain this movie from start to finish and all of the ideas and themes that Stanley Kubrick is going for, and yet I am just magically transported into the future, into the sci-fi world. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking, how did Stanley Kubrick do this? How did he make the pen float? How did he make people like feel like people were in zero gravity? How did he do this? How did he do that?
It is kind of a remarkable achievement in special effects.
Yeah.
And this was pre-Star Wars.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that this movie is not going to be for everyone. It's maybe one of the most not for everyone classics of all time.
You know, quite famously, Rock Hudson walked out of this movie.
Oh,
yeah, he walked out of the first screening of this movie, and he was very upset.
It is a movie that I think I will continue to think about and try to interpret for the rest of my life. So much of what's on my list owes a nod to this movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. I really liked this movie when I was a film student. I don't know that I would like it now.
You might be surprised. You might be pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
Even though this movie feels incomprehensible at points in time, there's just such a style to it that it just kind of works.
Okay. Well, you know, actually, I might have to renege on what I just said about 2001: A Space Odyssey, because my number 28 is also kind of a slow, kind of surreal, dreamlike movie. And that is Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. I was wondering how high this one would end up on your list.
This is a movie that you and I watched together, both for the first time earlier this year.
It was my second time.
Okay, you'd seen it twice.
Yeah.
I don't think you really like this movie. No, but like, I don't know what it is, but like, this movie just clicked for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the great Daniel Day-Lewis, who's an oil tycoon, and it's all about how he just collects more oil and fucks more people over. Like, it's...
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's kind of hard to even get into a plot summary, because I almost guarantee that Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't adhere to, like, the 3-act structure or anything like that.
I agree.
He's probably just like, no, this is my fucking movie. And no, it's one of the greatest performances of all time. He won the Oscar for this movie, and I think he absolutely deserved it. Mm-hmm. It's really like a movie about capitalism. And
yeah.
I hate to say it, this is almost like every shitty Trump-adjacent entrepreneur you've ever met would probably get the wrong message from this movie. You
Yes.
know? Actually, there's an
I drink your milkshake.
Yeah. There's an author I really like named Jason Pargin. He's the guy who famously wrote John Dies at the End.
Mhm.
He had a TikTok about this movie not too long ago where he said this is the one movie he would require everyone watch because it's almost kind of like presenting the dark side of the American dream.
Right.
This is what happens to a person who is so wealthy that they're able to fully isolate themselves from the rest of the world.
Right.
They go fucking insane and kill someone on a bowling alley.
Their bowling alley.
Their bowling alley, too. So, no, it's easily my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film. Truly a magnificent work of art.
Cool.
Also, Louis C.K. likes it.
Okay.
I saw a podcast where he was talking about it.
Yeah, I love when there's a couple of YouTube channels that do clips from podcasts where actors, comedians, etc. talk about movies, and I listen to a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess they would like movies if they've dedicated their whole lives to them.
Yep.
So
my number 28 is also somewhat of a surreal film, a very artistic film that actually came out within the last couple of years. Again, a horror movie, however, maybe a little bit more on the network social commentary of horror movies, and that is The Substance.
wow, really?
Yes.
This is that high up for you.
I think this movie is so good.
Okay.
And to have this movie this high, you have to gel with the last act of this film, particularly
Right.
the last 30 minutes. And I love the last 30 minutes of this movie. I think I'm probably on the higher, if not highest end of how much I think the last 30 minutes of this movie absolutely rocks.
Yeah. Admittedly, I kind of got turned off by the last act, and I think some of our mutual friends did as well,
Yes.
but I'm a little surprised it made your top 100, but I'm also not that surprised.
Yeah, this is probably my most talked about movie of 2024. A lot of people that I know watch this movie because I didn't shut up about it in 2024. It's one of my favorite stylistic movies of the last 25 years. I watched Coralie Fargeet's revenge film on Tubi, her first movie. And
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that.
thought it was wonderful as well, and I'm really excited to see what she does next because I'm kind of now just on her bench for every subsequent movie that she gets to do.
Yeah, I will say and I think I've said this before, it's easily one of the best directed movies I've ever seen. And this movie did have quite a bit of cultural impact.
Absolutely.
Like, I
it
think
did.
I know a lot of people who saw this movie.
Yeah, it was probably, if not the most talked about movie of 2024, in the top 5.
In the top 5, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. My number 27 is a movie that I'd heard about for a long time, but I didn't decide to check out till relatively recently. It's supposedly, it's one of Scarlett Johansson's early performances. Part of when Hollywood was starting to be like, oh, hey, Bill Murray can actually really act.
I know exactly what movie we're getting
And
into.
that is Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation.
This is one of those movies that I haven't got to yet, and I really, really think that I'm going to gel with it.
It's a very subtle, on first glance, it's a movie about nothing.
Uh-huh.
Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson's character are both sort of stranded in Tokyo for different reasons. He's sort of like an actor / spokesperson for, like, I don't know, whiskey or some shit. She's like the girlfriend or wife of this famous photographer, and they both spend a lot of their time just bumming around this hotel room because, he's got promotional shit to do, and she's just essentially like this really bored, kept woman who's just trying to pass the time. And it's not exactly a love story, but it's not exactly not a love story either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's a really compelling, really heartfelt, really touching movie. Like, I really liked it. It's also, like, I've always liked Bill Murray, but this is maybe one of the first times I'm like, oh, like, he's actually, like, he's a master of his craft, right? And there's a great scene where, like, he's trying to, like, do some commercial for this fucking whiskey. Like, he very clearly is annoyed and doesn't want to be there, which, actually, now that I say that, he might not have been acting. This is Bill Murray we're talking about.
Yeah.
But the way he's able to just subtly communicate disdain for everyone around him, I was like, beautiful. I love it.
Cool.
And yeah, I love this movie a lot.
My number 27 is a movie that is a crossover between the two of us. This is actually the highest crossover difference between the two of us where I was higher on it than you were. It's a movie that we did for the podcast last year. I think it's, like the last movie you talked about, a movie that I had known about for a long, long time. and watching it for the first time, didn't know what I was getting into, but was blown away by it, and that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, wow. That is okay. Yeah, there's only a 75 point difference between it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was shocked by just how upsetting this movie was. It felt like something that we as viewers shouldn't be watching. From the opening crawl, which is just so creepily narrated, to the scene with the hitchhiker, which for whatever reason, I think it's just because the collective consciousness has just tried to like squash that scene down because it's so scary, and so traumatizing. To, you know, when we first meet Leatherface, I think that this is one of the most important movies of the 1970s, one of the most important decades in movie history, and it kind of has just influenced a whole genre of film for the last 50 years. I also think that Tobe Hooper, the director of this movie, is actually maybe somewhat underrated.
I would agree. Like, he did a lot of great movies.
Yeah, he did. And so I've only actually watched one of his movies since we did this, and that was Life Force, a movie that I really, really liked as well, that's on Tubi. So yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we did a whole episode on this, so I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but I think that if you're a fan of horror movies, you absolutely need to watch the original because it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 26 is a movie that we've also already done a podcast on, and that is Don McKellar's Last Night.
Hey! This high on your list.
I love this movie. It's easily my favorite Canadian movie.
Yep.
It's like, as I've said before, I like things that are funny but also sad, and this movie does kind of capture the inherent sadness of the human condition, or at least the inherent sadness of the sun blowing up. So no, I love this movie. I think all the performances are great. Like, I feel like I've come back to this movie like every year, or at least every other year since I first brought it up on this podcast. Nothing but respect. It's also still free on YouTube last time I checked.
Which is unfortunate because, again, you and I would love to throw some money Don McKellar's way. Unfortunately.
Maybe I'll meet him at a party in Toronto one day and just reach out and like stuff like a $20 bill in his jacket and be like, thank you for your services.
Nice. My number 26 is another Rob Reiner film. It's one of the movies in his 80s run that I think is just absolutely legendary. This one's actually a Stephen King adaptation.
Oh, I was so excited. I was flashing you a big smile.
I know,
I
and
thought
you're
it was
wrong.
I thought it was going to be The Princess Bride.
It's not. It's Stand By Me. Have you seen Stand By Me?
I haven't.
Oh, Jesus.
Strangely enough, I haven't seen that one.
This is one of those movies that I believe it's rated R, but it's one of those movies that my parents kind of went, it's probably fine for an 8-year-old. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that this movie has been a part of my life for so long, because it's a movie about childhood, but it's also a movie about nostalgia for childhood. It's about growing up. It's about that pivotal time in your life when you're starting to become an adult or more of an adolescent. It's not a scary movie by any means, but it is a deeply impactful movie that as I watch this movie, as I get older, I just find it resonates, different elements of this movie resonate in different ways with me. And it's one of those films that every time I watch this, I just take something different away from it. I leave it feeling like profoundly moved by this movie every time I see it. I just think this is a masterpiece between Rob Reiner and Stephen King, and there are very few movies, obviously this being number 26, that I think have had more of an impact on my life than Stand By Me.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it at some point.
Absolutely,
Isn't Kiefer Sutherland in this movie?
He is. He's the villain.
Right.
Yeah, he's Ace. He plays one of Stephen King's kind of mainstay villains, of the 80s or 70s whenever he was writing these movies, because even like Ace's grandfather plays a prominent role in the Stephen King universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The
Pop Merrill, I think Ace Merrill is his name.
The Stephen King cinematic universe.
Yeah, I can't remember what their last name is, but it might be Merrill. I might be wrong. But anyway, Stand By Me number 26. It's phenomenal, and every single human being on this earth should watch it at one point in their lives.
Okay, are you speaking to me directly with
Yes,
this one?
actually,
I feel like you are.
I heavily am recommending it.
Okay, so let's just take a moment to acknowledge we're now in the top quarter of our list.
Yes.
We are now in the top 25.
Exciting.
My number 25 to usher in this new era or this new bracket of our top 100 is a movie that I only saw recently that you and I covered quite extensively earlier this summer, and that is David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers.
Oh, no way. This high.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Wow.
I actually watched it again recently with my partner.
Funny enough, I've talked about this movie several times since we watched it. Like, it is a movie that did move me, and every time I've brought it up to anyone over the age of 40, they went, oh, that's the Jeremy Irons gynecologist movie. And they went, oh, I remember when that movie came out, and I really liked it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Slightly under the radar, still a masterpiece.
Yes.
You want to know what's funny? When we recorded our episode, I said that it was free on YouTube.
Yep.
So I had my partner over a few weeks ago, and I'm like, do you want to watch this movie I've been not shutting up about? Actually, I have to take a step. I have to interrupt my own story with another story. I just recently started seeing someone within the last couple months. On our second date, I had just watched this movie. So here we are at this like cute little diner, and it's like, she's like, so tell me, she's like, oh, you do a podcast? That's interesting. What movie are you talking about? So it's like 1 PM, and I just start explaining in like gruesome detail scenes from this movie. And I'm like, and then they do this thing, and he like cuts this woman open and blah, blah, blah. And at some point I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm never seeing this woman again. Anyways, back to the story I was in the middle of. It's free on YouTube, but it's a censored version.
Oh.
Yeah, like if you go to YouTube and click on it, normally YouTube has this function where you can rent it, but it's just free on YouTube for whatever reason.
Uh-huh.
But they actually bleep out the swear words,
Oh.
and they actually cut out entire scenes.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, once I figured out what was going on, I'm like, all right, I just have to pay for it, I guess, because
it's one of those movies, though, that I think you just buy it at that point.
Yeah.
You know? Like, if it's 25 on your list, and it's a movie that you are planning on rewatching, and it sounds like you are, then I think it's one of those, like, you know what, this one's just worth it.
This one's just, I might even buy, like, the DVD of this movie. I might even own, like, a physical copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch your episode from a couple months ago.
Cool. My number 25, this is a funny movie to have as my kind of quarter film, because it definitely is a movie that feels like a movie kind of rounding out the end of the 20th century. I think this is a movie that I actually didn't appreciate as a kid, even though I think it was actually a pretty big movie in your household as a kid. And I don't think I got it because I didn't pick up on some of the just insanity of some of the performance in this movie, and that is 1985's Back to the Future.
Oh shit. Yeah, that was a big one in our household.
Yeah, I rewatched this last year, and instant classic, connected with it. And part of the reason why I think I connected with it is because being a fan of like the earlier seasons of Rick and Morty, I just kind of got it.
Yeah.
And it's maybe the subtle, not so subtle performance from Christopher Lloyd, the over-the-top nature of his performance and his character. I think he's just like electric, and I think this is one of the greatest movie performances of all time. Michael J. Fox could not have been a cooler geek
yeah.
than this character in this moment in time. This is probably Robert Zemeckis' best movie as well. I remember you and I watching all of the trilogy together, and maybe that's why I have had this on my list way lower before rewatching this as an adult, because the second two movies just don't hold a candle to the original Back to the Future.
No, you want to know what's funny? I've seen the second movie more times than any of them, not because it's my favorite, but because for whatever reason, my sister only liked the second one. So I had to watch number 2 like over and over and over again.
Well, that's why I'm sitting with you and not your sister.
Exactly, right?
So yeah, my number 25, Back to the Future, an all-time classic that if you haven't approached it since your childhood, I highly recommend going back and watching.
I will say that like I haven't really revisited it in a long time, but I did watch some scenes of it on YouTube recently, and I was kind of like, Doc and Marty really are kind of like the perfect on-screen duo.
Absolutely.
I do think it's kind of funny that like, and people have made jokes about like, why is this high schooler hanging out with this like weird old man? But like, their chemistry is so good that you kind of like, you understand why they're
accept
friends.
it
Yeah, you're
instantly.
just like, I get it. Like, you know, there's a great moment like when Marty's gone back to the future and he's talking to this younger version of Doc, and he's like, look, I got to get back. Like, I got a girl back home. And Doc just instantly sits up in his chair. He's like, is she pretty?
I just like when Doc's like kind of explaining the fact of like, you know, you can influence the past, or you'll like cease to exist essentially. And then his mom shows up and like Doc is just kind of like staring at them like around the car, like bug-eyed.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's like an all-time performance from Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. No, I like truly electric.
Yeah.
My number 24 is actually one of 2 documentaries in my top 100.
Oh, cool. I think I know which one it is probably.
It's Grizzly Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
fantastic documentary.
I first clued into this movie when I was, like in film school. I always kind of meant to rewatch it, but like I've heard some online discourse about this movie over the years. Like I've seen a couple retrospectives on Timothy Treadwell's life. But maybe I should take a step back and say it's a Werner Herzog directed documentary about this bear activist named Timothy Treadwell, who was tragically killed by a grizzly bear.
Him and his girlfriend.
Right? So I'd heard some online buzz about it over the years. Like, not a lot of it, just occasionally people would mention it. And like, what upset me is that people usually mention it in very like derisive tones.
Yeah.
Not the documentary itself, but Treadwell, the subject of the documentary.
Right.
I won't say who it was, but there's this one YouTuber that I watched who did like an analysis on Treadwell. And he ended his video with like, Treadwell thought that the bears found him credible, but really they found him edible. You know what I did? I actually left a comment on that video saying, someone died, you fucking monster. It's the one angry YouTube video comment I've ever left in my life. So anyway, but like what gets me about this movie is just it really offers a nuanced, warts and all look at this very, very eccentric, very, very troubled guy.
Yeah, I walked away from this one feeling deeply saddened for Timothy and the struggles that he went through.
Yeah, and like there's a case to be made that his downfall was of his own doing, but isn't that true for all of us?
Yeah.
Like to put it bluntly, isn't that true for all of us?
And you know what? Like maybe that's hitting the nail on the hammer, right? Like and that's why this movie is so relatable, is because Timothy Treadwell could be any one of us at any time.
Yeah, exactly. And also I had forgotten just how like respectful Herzog's portrayal of him was. Mm-hmm. He actually ends the documentary by being like fairly complimentary of this guy.
Yeah.
This weird guy who nonetheless deserves our respect.
My number 24 is a much lighter movie than Grizzly Man. It's a movie that you were expecting a few episodes or a few movies ago, and that's The Princess Bride.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I'm glad it made the list.
Oh, absolutely it made the list. This is a movie that is widely important to my family. I've seen this movie like 100 times since I was probably like 5 years old. This is a kissing movie, and I'm proud to say that.
I see what you did there. Yeah. I remember us being like little kids, and you were like, ROUSs, rodents of unusual size. And I was like, hell yeah, bro. What is this? Yeah. I think it's easily to Mandy Patinkin's best performance as Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
I'm with the Brute Squad. You are the Brute Squad.
Yeah,
he's only mostly dead, which is almost alive.
Yeah, one of the great movies of all time, one of the great quotable movies of all time. We've done a whole 2 episodes on it, so go back and check that out, because The Princess Bride is, like I said, just a pure masterpiece.
Goodbye, kids. Have fun storming the castle. I'm glad that made it onto both of our lists.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes
I
me
was
happy.
expecting it. I'm surprised that not every movie since you've done it, you went, is it The Princess Bride?
Compiling this list, it surprised me how like low it went, you know?
Yeah.
Not low. It's still in my top 50,
Yep.
but like, yeah. My number 23 is a little movie by a little director who's gotten a lot of positive buzz recently, and that is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is wild that this is this high to me.
You know what's funny is that I know a lot of people who've seen this movie and they almost seemed a little down on it. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? This movie's amazing.
I think this one's great. I will say I've only seen it once, and I don't remember it all that well.
That's totally fair. I think part of it is just I really click with the James Gunn sensibility.
Yep.
Like, I like gore. I like a certain laissez-faire attitude towards violence. I like anti-heroes. I like misfits. I like a slightly...
Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, Polka Dot Man. I like a slightly tongue-in-cheek attitude towards the superhero genre. Like, this movie really fucking clicked with me. I got surprisingly emotional towards the end. I think it's quite easily the best DC movie, which admittedly is kind of a low bar, but...
DCU movie?
Yeah, DCU movie.
All right, fair enough.
So, actually, I don't know. Is this the DCEU or the DCU
I don't
now?
know. Now we're really splitting
Yeah,
hairs.
I don't know
I
either.
was being a dick, so...
Oh, well, I don't even think James Gunn can answer that question, what
That's fair.
continuity this takes place in. So I was supposed to actually crash with your sister or something because I was just starting a new job in the city we live in, but she had just gotten COVID, so I couldn't. So my plans were canceled, and I was just kind of like, well, what can I do? And I'm like, I guess I'll go see a movie. And I hadn't even really heard of this movie, but I'm like, yeah, I'll go see it. I walked in 10 minutes late, sat down. I must have been like the only one there. But I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. So, anyways, Suicide Squad.
Cool. My number 23 is another David Fincher movie that I absolutely love. I think that this one is actually one of his most underrated films. It's an adaptation of a very famous novel from the 2010s, and that's Gone Girl.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I still haven't fucking seen Gone Girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think that this is one of the most rewatchable films in his filmography. And the reason why I say that is because I take away something different from this movie every time I see it. And that's a sign of a well-written, layered film.
Yeah, you've mentioned that. Like, the first time you watch it, you side with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
The second time you watch it, you side with what's her name. Then the third time, you're like, oh, these two deserve each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a movie that I love returning to and forming different opinions about each of the characters each new time I watch it. Like, and, you know, credit obviously to the original novelist of Gone Girl, who I don't have written down here beside me. But yeah, I think that David Fincher just expertly navigates the story and takes it from the page to the screen expertly well. It's a movie that, again, I think this is one of those ones that it's so good and it was so like influential at the time that it came out that there was kind of the but and people kind of coming full circle with it.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people saw this one when it came out and haven't really seen it since. And I would say you need to go back and rewatch it.
I do remember when this movie came out, it was kind of a phenomenon. And I was kind of like, I should probably go see this movie. And then I just never did. And I still haven't.
Yeah, and you absolutely should. It's one of my favorite movies of 2014.
Okay, tight. My number 22 is what I personally consider to be quite possibly one of the greatest sequels of all time. It not only builds on the formula that the first movie set, but it improves upon it.
Ooh.
And that is a little movie called Kung Fu Amanda 2.
Wow, we
Yeah.
have two Kung Fu Amandas in our top 100
Yeah,
list.
I don't know what to tell you. This is, I think I told this story a year or so ago when we did a draft episode, but like, I remember being on a Greyhound bus, being like nightmarishly hungover on my way back to school. And I'd kind of caught glimpses of this movie because I knew some animation students in college and they always had it on in the background. But I was kind of like, all right, whatever. Like, I'll just put it on. And I was like, oh my God, this movie fucking slaps. You will believe that an animated Jack Black panda can make you cry.
Yeah.
And it did. Gary Oldman also plays Lord Shen, the villain. And like, Gary Oldman is obviously one of the greatest actors of all time. Also a phenomenal voice actor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't do more voice work because he just has such a like rich, like textured voice.
Yes.
And I feel like people always laugh at me when I say this, but it's true. This movie's genuinely a work of art.
Wow. I will admit this is one that I have not seen.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I feel like I'd have to talk a 32-year-old man into watching Kung Fu Panda with me, especially Kung Fu Panda 2, but I just find it kind of funny that like I remember being 16, seeing the Kung Fu Panda poster at our local cinema and being like, oh, that looks fucking dumb. And like 4 years later, I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. So
speaking of beautiful, my number 22 is actually also a Stephen King adaptation. This one's considered like objectively one of the great movies of all time. I think that this movie just is so moving, and it's a movie about hope, and that is The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I know this movie.
This is, again, one of those milestone movies for a lot of people. It's a movie that I think that everybody should watch at least once in their life. It just has an immaculate script. Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins are both knockout performances from both of them. It has some really great twists and turns in it. And ultimately, like I said, it's a movie about a bunch of men condemned to live the rest of their lives in prison. And yet this is a movie about hope and perseverance and the human experience. And it's just such a beautiful film. I love returning to this one. The first like 20, 30 minutes maybe move a little on the slow side, and you kind of like struggled off like, oh, how good can this movie really be? And by the end, every single time it wins me over.
I think my favorite story about this movie is that Stephen King was at like a grocery store in Florida one day, and this old woman on like a scooter came up to him, and she's like, hey, I know you. You're Stephen King. She's like, why do you always write that horror? You should write that. She's like, you should write something uplifting, like The Shawshank Redemption. And he went, well, I wrote that too. And she went, no, you didn't. And she just drove away.
Nice.
Great movie. Also, Mr. Krabs is in it. Clancy Brown, the
Oh,
prison guard. That's
I didn't
Mr.
know
Krabs.
that was Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Mr.
Clancy
Krabs.
Brown is one of the all-time great character actors.
Oh, yeah. Great voice actor, too.
Yeah.
Truly phenomenal.
That's hilarious that he's Mr. Krabs.
Okay, so my number 21. Okay, so I checked.
Yeah.
It's not on Letterboxd.
Well, then it doesn't count.
Well, it's almost on Letterboxd. Someone made a blog post about how all the volumes of this particular series don't have their own entry, but they should. So, and that is Red vs. Blue Reconstruction.
Okay.
Red vs. Blue has this model where they would release an episode every week, and then it was collected into like a volume or a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like volume 6 of the show. And I'm not going to bore everyone with Red vs. Blue lore, but basically like Red vs. Blue had 5 incredible seasons, and it was kind of this very silly, lighthearted adventure. Then they came out with Reconstruction, which was kind of like volume 6. And it's kind of like, I'm going to say something that like no one's going to believe, but it's true. This is kind of my personal Empire Strikes Back. In the sense that like it kind of took everything that was working about the first 5 seasons and it kind of turns everything on its head. This movie has a twist towards the end that genuinely like made me spit out my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It really kind of appeals to my sensibilities, and then it's smart but also stupid, funny but also shockingly dramatic at parts. So yeah, this is my 21.
Cool. Well, Red vs. Blue Restoration is going to go in, and you can have people at you for the rest of your life.
I will. I would love people to at me.
That's our compromise.
Okay. Like, if you aren't kind of already familiar or in the know, or you haven't seen the first 5 seasons, this movie would be fucking incomprehensible. I tried showing it to an old girlfriend,
Yeah.
and sort of giving her a Cliff Notes version of like what had happened before and like why this was important.
Yeah.
And afterwards, she's like, "Yeah, I didn't get it." And I was like, "Okay, well." Anyways,
fair enough. That's a I guess such a deep cut on your list.
I guess, right? Me just hamstringing myself over here.
Yeah. My number 21 is again one of the most important movies in our lives combined. It's a movie that I think is important to my parents, and they showed us at debatably too young of an age because you got really upset about it when we watched it at 8 years old. That is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, you know that like little crybaby who had to call his mom and be sent home. That was me.
I mean, people's faces melted.
Yeah, I think that was a fair reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this movie in theaters in 35 millimeter a couple years ago with our friend Mike, and this
No
is
relation.
and this is genuinely one of the best movie going experiences I have ever had. I would recommend, if this movie ever goes back to theaters, if you get a chance to catch this one at an indie movie theater, you should absolutely go and check this out, because not only is this a really fun movie to watch with a crowd, seeing it in that 35 millimeter, it just kind of makes it feel like this old found footage film from like an era, a bygone era that shouldn't exist. I actually think that like the lower the 35 grain material, like the more kind of deteriorated it is, the more fun it is to watch.
It would kind of complete the whole like film serial vibe of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a movie that I actually rewatched this one last night, and it bumped up a couple spots from last night because I just fell in love with it all over again. It's just so perfectly paced. Indiana Jones is just one of the iconic figures of movie history. This is my Harrison Ford performance that matters the most to me.
I think that's fair.
There's an argument to be made that this movie or this franchise has really gone off the rails, especially with the last two entries.
Oh my God, are you kidding? Yeah. Actually, Dial of Destiny is the only movie I've ever walked out of.
Yeah, and I have my problems with it as well, because I think that something got lost in the understanding of how a movie like Indiana Jones works, and it's not because it's a family film or a film about families. It's a film about the character of Indiana Jones.
It's a film about punching Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. I think that because of the last two films, maybe this series has dropped off a little bit, people's collective memories. But, you know, this one and close second, The Last Crusade, is just two extraordinarily important movies to my life. So,
does Kingdom of the Crystal Skull kind of hold up?
I have heard that people have come around on it. I have not rewatched it.
I saw it in theaters when I was a teenager and I liked it, but like I know like Dial of Destiny, I was just like, what the fuck is this? It almost kind of reminds me of like how the sequel trilogy kind of redeemed the prequel trilogy in Star Wars.
Right.
So I don't know.
Fair enough. So yeah, that is the conclusion of this bracket of our movie list.
So now we're edging into the top 20.
Yeah, really exciting.
Ooh.
I am very excited to see what movies you have left on your list. I do have a little bit of post-amble, like I said.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Are there any movies that didn't quite make your top 100 list for one particular reason or another? Or are there any movies that you just couldn't quite rewatch or maybe even get to, period, that have always been on your movie list that you've been wanting to check out?
Yeah, actually. I do think it's maybe a bit of a disservice that I didn't include the Star Wars original trilogy, just because they were such a big part of our childhoods, and like
more so yours than mine. I felt like I was a little bit more along for the ride with you on those ones.
Okay. At the same time, though, I didn't really have a great desire to rewatch them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I was debating being like, what if I just slotted out my number one spot and then just included all three of them for my number one? But then it's like, you know, like, I did really love those movies as a kid, but like, again, for whatever reason, maybe you could chalk it up to like just how the franchise has maybe gone off the rails a bit. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, you know.
I think that Empire Strikes Back is objectively a fantastic movie that just because of the baggage of the rest of the series, like it's again one that I maybe don't go back to as much as I could.
Yeah. So, you know, the other thing too is like I was never really a big Lord of the Rings guy either. So none of those movies made it onto my top 100.
Wow.
Yeah, surprisingly. Like I've only seen those movies once.
Yeah, and those movies are just really big to our generation in general.
Yeah,
right? So.
But again, I was kind of like, nah, I got it. I don't really like. I had time. I had multiple nights. Where I'm like, should I just put in Star Wars and see if it still holds up? And I was like,
yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, I guess Star Wars and Lord of the Rings clearly meant a big deal to me. More so, Star Wars, obviously. I also didn't really feel a great urge to revisit them. So maybe we can chalk those into my like honorable mentions somewhere.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for me, one of the biggest ones that I kind of wish that I had gotten a chance to rewatch, but I just haven't had time, is Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh yeah.
Jason and I did that for the podcast, and I thought it was a really, really, really good movie by one of my favorite directors.
The Stanley Kubrick sex movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's obviously like a few more Stanley Kubrick movies that I haven't watched. I think that I still have a really big international hole, even though, you and I have been doing a lot of international movies this past year.
Boy, have we.
But I think Kurosawa is somebody that I need to watch more of his movies. Like Seven Samurai is kind of like one of the big ones that comes to mind, but Ron and Yojimbo, like I haven't seen those yet. I think Denis Villeneuve, I'm rounding out my watch experience with him, but I still haven't seen Incendiaries or Incendies. And I guess as well, like Tarkovsky, I haven't seen a Tarkovsky movie, but I feel like he's right up my alley.
The Russian guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Tarkovsky movie either.
He might be one of my ones that have gotten away from me for too long. Like, there are a lot of his movies that I just think I'm going to really like, and I just haven't quite got there yet.
Well, I mean, you think about it. You and I are still relatively young men.
Yep.
If we're still doing this podcast in 20 years, we'll probably do a redux of our top 100, and it will likely be very different.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think those are like the bigger ones that are just maybe I feel like are just slightly absent from my list just because I haven't quite gotten to them yet. I also maybe have a little bit of a Alfred Hitchcock hole just because I haven't watched a lot of his movies and or have not reapproached them in recent years. He kind of a little bit of a different filmmaker in the sense that, like,
we might be a little too young for Hitchcock.
Well, and I think the thing with Hitchcock is, like, he was maybe constrained by the times as well. Like, he wasn't allowed to do, I think, a lot of what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that maybe would limit our appreciation of his films.
Do you remember when we tried watching Vertigo, which is considered one of the greatest movies of all time? And it's like we were both just bludgeoned with boredom the entire time.
And that's kind of it, right? Like, I don't think it was the right time. Like, I think I needed to see, like, Psycho or something else beforehand. He might just be, again, one of those directors that I have to approach a few of his movies before they finally click for me.
Well, he sure made a lot of them.
Yeah.
So we got lots to choose from.
Yeah, for sure. So, cool. I think that's it then for this episode. Really excited to get down to the final 20 next week. And as always, tell your dad, and we'll see you next time.
Tell your dad.
Cool.
100 of them.
Bye. Your harem of fathers.
Oh, gross.